Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Come to Papa. I am Tom Papa, and you are listening to the best show on all radio ever, anywhere. My guest today is my good friend Dan Soder, who's a very talented comedian. I see him all the time at the Comedy Cellar, and I'm very excited to bring him to you because Dan is one of the, I would call him part of the new crop, part of the kick-ass funny group of people who have been down there for the last couple of years, who are emerging, and maybe you have seen him live, but maybe you haven't, and you're going to start seeing a lot of him because he's doing a lot of things. He's just had a new special come out on Comedy Central, part of the half-hour series. His half-hour just aired on May 3rd, a couple weeks ago, and is available on iTunes. And you should put in Dan Soder, S-O-D-E-R, in your DVR. Because he's going to be popping up a lot, doing a lot of different things, being funny, sometimes being charming, sometimes taking a role on something like a drama where they need a funny guy who ends up being a killer at the end.
Done and done.
That's going to be Dan Soder. I'm very glad you're here.
Dude, thanks for having me, Tom.
And I'm really excited because you are really funny.
Thanks.
And I enjoy your comedy. And we have really just become friendly in like the last year, pretty much.
Yeah, through the, hanging out at the cellar and just sitting around and talking, and that's a great way to meet, new people.
Yeah. And did you sleep with any other waitresses there?
No, that's the one club I will not sleep with any waitresses.
That's unfortunate because they have a lot of really great waitresses there.
They have unbelievably attractive and nice waitresses.
So you have to find the one who is like at her wit's end, who's going to quit.
Yeah, yes. Or maybe even has already quit and I run into him on the street.
Ah,
you see what I mean?
That would be perfect.
That way no one knows.
But then they get a job again working like at Caroline's, and then you can't work that club.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I would be okay with that.
How did your half-hour special go?
It was great. It was.
Where'd you tape it?
We taped in Boston at the Royale, which is down the street from the Wilbur.
Fancy.
Which is funny because when I told all my friends in Boston that I was taping at the Royale, they're like, "You talking about that fucking dance club?" And you're like, "Yeah, I think they're taping there." They're like, "Why the fuck are they taping there?" And then they go, "This looks fucking nice." Like right when they walk in, they're like, "All right." But it was Comedy Central did a great job of getting an unbelievable setup.
Nice.
And the crowd was phenomenal. So.
That's great. And how much time did you actually do in the live show?
I did 37 minutes.
You did 37 minutes.
Which they cut down to 24.
24.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And how did you handle the cuts?
There was two jokes that I wish would have made it.
Uh-huh.
But there's something coming up that I'm taping soon enough that's like, okay, I can just use it on that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of awesome because they're like, it's not repeating a joke and I get to use this and it'll be like, oh, this is new. And you're like, this isn't new.
Right, exactly.
This has been in it. But
don't you love when you come off stage and someone's like, man, I really love that joke about the squirrel. And you're like, oh, thanks, man. And it's really like 12 years old.
You just started redoing it and they're like, dude, when did you write that? And you're like, 06.
That's really awesome. When did you start?
I started doing comedy in 04.
In 04?
2004 in Tucson, Arizona.
In Arizona?
Yeah, I went to the University of Arizona, and that's where I started doing comedy.
At the Improv?
No, it was Laughs in
Laughs.
Tucson. Laff''S.
I don't know that. Is it still a place?
Yeah, it's still a comedy club.
Is it good?
I don't know. I haven't worked it since I left.
Why they don't like you?
I don't know.
Did you sleep with the waitresses?
I did sleep with one waitress, lovely girl, but the owner Scotty Goff sold it, and then I didn't know he sold it after I left, and so there's no connection. I don't have family there. I just went to school there, so there really wasn't a reason to.
So you're going to school there, and while you were in school, you went up and.
Yeah, I was doing radio. When I was in college. I actually got hired at the alternative station in Tucson at KFMA, which is a great station. And it was like, I didn't like the people at the University of Arizona.
Why? They were too beautiful?
Kind of.
Too shiny?
Too shiny, and a lot of them, I mean, I've met a bunch of great people that went to the University of Arizona, but a majority of them were like rich kids from San Diego that were just like, you don't even know who my dad is. Do you know who my dad? I get a new Range Rover every birthday, and I'm coming from Aurora, Colorado, which is like very middle class, and I'm like, I don't. They're like, you don't have a freaking credit card, and they're like, no. My mom's in debt. And they're like, whatever, let's go to the bar and do blow. And I'm like, does anybody want to smoke a joint and drink whiskey? And they're like, I was out on my own.
And they just graduate and go right to Scottsdale.
Yeah. And then they just, create these subprime mortgage collapse. And they're like, you don't even know who my dad is. My dad could bail us out of this.
When you're doing that imitation, is that the girls or the boys?
It's both. That's a mix. Because the guys are like, from like the San Diego accents, like super kind of like, I'm super chill, bro, and I just like hang out. And the girls are like super high, and they're like, "What are you're poor? What's that like?" Those are the two accents. It's
adorable.
It's awful, and it was. I did not get laid until I actually started working at the radio station, because I was around like older people who were awesome,
right,
and loved like rock music like I did,
right,
and they thought I was 21. When I got hired at the radio station, I was 19. So I'm going to bars with like adults, and like women are hitting on me, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?"
You do not seem like a guy that would do well in Arizona.
No, I didn't.
No, you need clouds.
Exactly. I'm a very Seattle.
Yeah, I see you with clouds and espresso.
You know me very well.
Yeah.
Smoking like a rolled cigarette.
Right.
Being like, whatever, the government's just in on something.
Yeah, you definitely, you actually have a very East Coast vibe.
Yeah, I think that's why I moved to New York, was because it felt like the right place for me.
How did you first get turned on to New York? You start doing stand-up there.
In Tucson, and then, I'm like a fanatical stand-up fan.
Right.
Like I've been,
since you were a kid.
Yes, really tiny. And I always like when comedians say that, and then they like, where they're always like, the first album I listened to was Richard Pryor, and I knew, but that's bullshit, because you don't really, if you're a kid and you get Richard Pryor, you're going to be in therapy for a long time.
Right. It's like looking at a political cartoon. People are laughing. We have no idea why.
Yeah, if like a little kid's like, you know what I really enjoy? The New Yorker cartoon. Right. It's like, what? But
I don't get that dog's expression.
But I remember like Robin Williams. I loved Dana Carvey's 94 HBO special.
Right.
Which I watched it the other day. It still holds up.
Is that Choppin' Broccoli?
Choppin' Broccoli, and all the stuff about the OJ trial.
Right.
And what having a kid's like adopting a really old man.
Right.
Some classic bits in there, but I just liked stand-up.
Yeah.
And I knew it was LA or New York.
Right. Did you meet comedians that told you that, or you just kind of figured?
I talked to, there was Troy Baxley, who's a comic from Denver he's like one of my favorite comedians of all time. And he just like lived in Denver. And I used to open for him when he'd come to Laughs, and he was like, you got to go LA or New York.
Right.
And I despised the thought of LA.
Because it reminded you of school.
Yes. And it was like all those people. And I noticed all my friends in school were all from like Long Island or New York. And Comedian had came out. And that for my generation of comedians, I don't think like some of the older comedians understand how important that documentary was.
Right.
Because we got to see what the cellar was like and what the old Gotham and that that scene where you get off stage and Jerry's in the green room. He's like, they're animals. You really got to feel. And it was like, that's what I want to do. I want that kind of. In fact, I opened for Colin Quinn a couple weeks ago, and I quoted Colin Quinn from Comedian to Colin Quinn, which was like, what the hell?
Why? What quote was it?
He said, we were talking about stand up.
Yeah.
And Colin, he's like, well, you just gotta, you do the work or whatever. And I go, yeah, you gotta work. I go, work. And I go, oh man, that's you from Comedian. And he goes, oh, okay, I just thought it was a good quote. Colin completely undersells it.
I just had breakfast with him the other day. And he was really complimenting you because you guys did a gig in Binghamton.
Yeah, we did.
And he said it could have been a horrible show. It was just a square gymnasium kind of a feel, and kind of the acoustics are weird, and the crowd could be weird, and that you went out there as a real seasoned veteran.
Oh, wow.
Which is a cool compliment.
Yeah, that's
and that you understood the room and not to go really loud, and you were subtle when you needed to be subtle, and you really just made it into this great comedy room by the time he came on, which is a huge thing.
I'm going to try not to freak out, but that's like an
that's
unbelievable
great.
compliment.
That is. Because
especially being at the Cellar, and like the group I'm with, the guys like Sam Morrill, Mark Norman, Joe List,
Yep.
Michael Che, like all these young guys. I don't think you guys realize that it's like, for us, we kind of always are freaking out.
Right.
In like a small way. We're like, oh shit. Like,
Right.
we're like when you sat there, like, I think one of the first times I'm like, I'm talking to fucking Tom Papa, and like, this is just weird. And like, because
we don't look at it that way at all. We
Yeah.
don't, just somebody's new, but the idea that anyone would be feeling, cause I just see, oh, there's a really cool young comic. He probably thinks I'm a nerd.
and in our head we're like, don't fucking say anything stupid. Just eat your Mediterranean food and just look down at the plate.
And I'm thinking, I wonder if it's cool to say Mumford and Sons. Is that not cool now?
Is it the Lumineers? Who is it now? Who is it now?
Does he know Phosphorescent? I bet I have him on that one.
But it's like, it really is, and I think that's the thing that has clicked with me as far as New York goes, that I know that I never want. Like, I'll go, don't get me wrong, if I get an opportunity to go work in LA, I'll do that.
Sure.
But New York just feels like home.
Yeah.
Because you get to you bump into your friends.
I know.
At work. Like, you'll be at Stand Up New York and someone will walk in that you haven't seen because they've been on the road and you've been on the road, and you're like, what's up? And then,
And there's a lot, and it's concentrated.
Yeah.
So every night, you're going to run into.
You're going to see someone.
I know.
That.
Have you performed in LA? Have you been there and like done a month of trying to hustle shows out there?
No, I did Conan in January, and then I did.
Which went really well, I heard.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I just did like a couple shows because I was kind of like
warming up.
Short notice. And yeah, and then I did like one show.
That's always a weird.
And then Nate Bargatze lives out there, who's my best friend, and
right.
I just basically just hung out with him because he had moved out to LA, and it was like seeing him and his wife and his daughter, and it was just kind of fun hanging out.
Yeah. No, it's a very normal life out there, actually.
I can see why people move there because it's like a lot of people don't like being stacked on top of each other.
I know.
And they don't like that compression feeling.
Yeah.
But LA, I don't like not being compressed.
Yeah.
I don't like driving everywhere.
The problem with it not being compressed is everybody goes to bed early.
Well, everyone's like,
everyone's by themselves, and the sun. You're beholden more to nature, where it's like the sun's down, and now the kids are falling asleep. So I guess I should go to sleep. And it's like, no, but I have a spot at 10 o'clock. Well, what am I going to do between 8 and 10 to keep myself up? Because there's no energy.
Exactly.
Where here, it's like don't go to sleep ever.
You actually leave the house when it's dark here.
Right.
You're like, oh, it's night, less people on the subway.
Right.
Everything will be way easier than it is, during when the sun's up.
But what about acting and stuff like that? Do you go out for that, or is it not an interest?
I think it's an interest of mine as far as I need to learn how to do it. I'm going to start working with an acting coach to start learning. But the only interest I have as far as doing it if it would be a fun project, or it could help me fill seats. Right. To help my stand-up. Right. I think that would probably be the only reason why I would want to do that. Like be the wacky neighbor. Kind of like what Patton Oswalt did. Yeah. He really, he did TV. He was on King of Queens. Yeah. He's done he's a great actor. Unbelievable actor, but he was still stand-up the whole time. Right. And you act and you're a stand-up, and it's like that's the thing that I like. Yeah. It's like I don't do stand-up to become an actor. I would act just to get more people to see me do stand-up. Right, exactly. And then though, here comes then you start getting a couple things, and then you want more of it because you start to see, okay, this had some impact, but now if I act in a lot more, like, why aren't I in that movie or that movie? That would be real. And then the temptation for LA becomes even greater. Now, as far as you just moved back to New York, or you've always been bi-coastal. Yeah. But do you feel that, because you're in a ton of cool stuff now, it's like, do you feel like maybe I have to go back to LA? Yeah. I'm actually involved in that right now. What are you thinking? Because I remember we were talking one of the first times we met. And you were talking about how you were renting out your house in L.A. And some stuff. And I remember Esty was like, how do you like being back? And you're like, it's the best. It's great. And I just did another special, just shot another special. And in a year and a half from the time I did my other special. Yeah. And that really is because I was in New York and just working so hard and so much. You could do, 20 spots in a week, no problem. I know. You go to LA and you kind of lose that, but you do pick up. Just from being out there, I picked up
That's how I ended up in Soderbergh films. That's how I ended up on Old Christine. Just being out there, you stumble into things, which is valuable. And so I am kind of going back and forth with it all the time. And I really have realized I'm going to talk about it until I'm dead, because
so this is a never-ending battle.
It's never ending. But my kids really want to go out there now, and I might spend the next year out there a little bit more.
So your daughters, did they like LA more than New York?
My one little one really, really is active and wants to be a kid of all things.
Weird.
I know. She wants to ride her bike. And
gross.
I know.
Get on the internet. Lose your personality.
I'm trying to teach her how to smoke so she can just stand on the fire escape.
Hello, Father.
I love New York.
That's great.
New York is wonderful. So anyway, I'm always going back and forth with it. But I always say in success, you're going to have to deal with both places.
Yeah.
Right. There's another trap to being stuck in New York and just doing these clubs every night. That could be just as much a trap as going to LA.
Yeah, I think as far as I would like, a mixture of everything. I'd like to go out to LA and work. I'd like to go on the road to do a lot longer sets, and I'd like to keep my home base here.
Are you out on the road headlining a lot?
Yeah, I'm just starting to do that now. I was a feature for a long time, and the past year I've started headlining, and
nice.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun because it's a brand new challenge.
Yeah,
where you're like, you're used to the feeling of a 30-minute set,
right?
And then when it's 50 minutes to an hour, you're like, you can. I don't know. It's kind of fun because there's almost like this air of like, I know I can go to this bit if I need it. Like I know my last 5 minutes will be there,
right?
But let's see if there's something just in the ether.
Right.
Let's fuck around and see if there's something that can.
How do you work? Do you work it out mostly on stage, or you?
I know. I think
write it out.
I like to write it out. I will have a card on the stool, like just in case I lose my place, in case I go somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, I'll just put it down with my water and just to glance real quick and be like, oh, I haven't done that or that, and I can go in and that'll lead to this.
Right.
But I don't really have a planned out set.
Do you walk out with the card in your pocket, or is it in your hand?
I usually do the water bottle around the water bottle, and as I put the water bottle down,
So it looks like a napkin?
Yeah, it looks a little cheat.
Very sneaky.
Yeah, I don't want to be because there's something I think that really bothers me when I see a comedian do a bit and then go and pull out it and be like, do you guys, what do I, or they pull out their notebook and they're like, let's see what else I got.
Yeah.
What are you going through a Rolodex on stage? You're breaking the allure.
I know. I remember I did that once, and my cousin was in the audience, and he's like, what did you do that for? You made everybody thought you were just having a good time, then you took out that note, and it's like, I'm like, come on, because I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's I think it's okay, if you're at the cellar and you have your pad on the piano.
Chris Rock was there last night, and he had his pad out, and but he's really working it out. If you're headlining in Indianapolis and you're that Saturday night fun for all these people that came out, they don't want to see you working it out.
Yeah, they don't want
You can do it, but you can't let them know.
They're this guy's trying out new stuff, right. And I paid $30 and 2 drinks to see him.
So how do you like doing morning radio when you're on the road?
Because I came from a radio background, it's okay.
Good.
It's actually kind of fun because a lot of morning DJs that don't know who you are,
right,
couldn't, when they treat you with that very apathetic
Yep.
Who's this joke?
I love when they you could tell they're just taking it off of Wikipedia.
Yeah.
This is an American comedian
born in
in Aurora, Colorado, and he's
but it's I think it's fun, and I think really,
it's good.
I'm just trying to learn how to do everything right now.
Right.
Because I'm new.
Right.
I'm the new guy on the job, so it's like...
So wait, you started in...
04.
First time on stage was 04.
Started doing open mics in 04.
In 04.
And it's funny because, I wish I could be and it was love at first sight, and it was passion, and I just knew I had to get funny, but I had such a big crush on the girl that worked the front door at the comedy club.
Oh, yeah?
And I loved stand-up, but that was the I did it... The first month I started doing stand-up, I, would do an open mic, and then, bomb... Right. And then have a good set and want to come back. And then I'd bomb and be like, I'm not going to go back. I'm embarrassed. And then she started working there, and I was there every Wednesday. Early at the host stand. And I thought I had a shot. She moved to LA. I thought I had a shot.
Never happened?
Never happened. Jenna was the one that got away.
Where is she now? L.A.?
I think she lives in L.A. She got like real weird, and like that was when MySpace came out, and I found her on MySpace, and she had gotten strange.
No, what kind of strange?
Like lip piercings and a lot of tattoos, and I don't like a lot of tattoos. And I'm like, all right, well, there you go. You're released. Back into the wild with you. Catch and release.
Thanks for being my muse.
Yeah, thank you for getting me into this, and thank you for getting weird, because now I don't have any hang-ups.
So if it wasn't a complete love at first sight with stand-up, at what point did it really click for you that you felt like, all right, I'm not going to do anything else?
I think it was like when I finally had 3 minutes or like 5 minutes. And you're like, this works.
Right.
Like, this works. I can say this stuff. And then, like, you know, it's an awful...
key.
Yeah, but then you're just like, yeah, you're right. It just opens the door, and you're like... And I've always been really interested in watching people's work process and like how they build material. And I always loved watching stand-up. I'd even, like, sit there and watch the open mics. Just
Right.
like, what is this guy doing?
Right.
And there was, like, friends of mine that I started with in Tucson, like Jessie Campbell, who's a great comedian. She lives out in L.A. And she was like really funny, and I feel like that pushed me to be like, I want to get as funny as Jessie
Right.
and like these other people that I was starting with in Tucson.
Right.
And then like the owner was like, do you want to do a guest spot on a Friday? And you're like, what?
Friday.
A crowd?
Yeah, right. A
And then
real
you bomb
audience.
in front of a crowd, and you're like, fuck them. And then like it just worked into, you know, me emceeing, and then, you know, I was there for I was doing comedy in Tucson close to 2 years.
2 years?
And by the time I left, I was featuring. So it was like,
oh, nice.
and I shouldn't have been.
And did you get your degree?
Yeah. I got my degree in journalism and political science.
And what did your parents
My
think?
mom had one rule my whole life. She's like, I don't care what you want to do for a job, as long as it makes you happy, you're going to get a college degree.
Right.
And the second I got a college degree, I was like, I'm going to move to New York and do stand-up. And she was like, yeah, go do that.
Nice.
She was like, go for it.
That's great.
Yeah, and so I moved out here and stayed on a buddy's couch. And
What does she do?
My mom's a nanny now. She was a medical malpractice negotiator.
Oh.
She worked for a insurance company that covers doctors, and she would go actually mediate and try to negotiate out of court
Right.
with like these people that had like some of the stories. I was like, I used to read them as a kid, and I was like people leaving like tools in people's bodies.
Oh, God.
Like these stories where you're like, yeah, I don't want a doctor to ever touch me.
Right.
I'm going to become a Christian Scientist because this is crazy.
And she would defend the doctor, so she'd be like,
She had to.
sometimes a tool gets stuck in there.
Sometimes we forget. Whoopsies. But my mom, it was great because, you know, my mom raised me by herself, and it was really interesting to see a woman that's that motivated, smart, and successful,
Right.
while also keeping a heart. Like she had a heart. Like 'cause some of these things, she'd be like, if the doctor really did fuck up, she would be like, I'm gonna give them a lot of money.
Right.
Like when she would go to negotiate, she'd
Right.
be like $400,000, and they would be asking for like $200,000, and she'd be like, "We'll give you $400,000." She's like, "That's kind of messed
Wow.
up." But then there are these people, ambulance chasers,
Yeah.
that just try to sue doctors, and my mom would just bring the hammer down on them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she would just be like, "All right, you want to fucking play ball? Let's play ball." Like there was one lady that had plastic surgery,
Yeah.
and she was like cat faced, really gross,
Yeah.
very wealthy, but it was clear that she just wanted to get money. And my mom was like, I've got one of the best defense lawyers in Denver.
Wow.
She's like, so we can just do this.
Cat lady.
Yeah. All right, cat lady.
It's
I got
on.
a scratch and post for you. Yeah. It's a man that's undefeated in court.
So did she leave it because she got burned out?
She got let go because she had a problem with her boss. Her boss was very not nice.
Handsy?
It was a lady, and I think she really resented my mom because everyone in the office loved my mom, and everyone hated her, and she was right under my mom. My mom was right under her as far as the pecking order.
Right.
And she let her go. My mom was 61,
Okay.
and it's real. Like it's crazy to watch age discrimination. 'Cause
Yeah.
my mom's 61. She's got 32 years of experience,
Wow.
and she,
Right.
pulling in around $100,000. No one's going to hire.
Right.
No one's going to hire a 61-year-old lady.
No, it's
when you
hard.
can go get a college grad for 40.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but she sued him.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, for
Hey, I know
wrongful-
how to do this.
Yeah, she's like, I don't think you should have fired the person that knows all the lawyers.
Right.
So I think what ended up happening, she did like a wrongful termination case.
Oh, that's good.
And so now she's a nanny for a lovely family.
Awesome.
And it's funny because it's like the little girl's like 6. She's got long brown hair.
Yeah.
And my best friend got married a couple of years ago. And a lot of my friends from New York came out. And 2 of my girlfriends met my mom. And I showed him a picture of me with the girl that she nannies. And I go, I've never told anybody this, but I had a daughter 6 years ago. And my mom, this is why I love my mom so much, just played along with it. Like almost to the point where I was like, what have you lied to me in my life about? Because she really just did like she goes, but I see her all the time. She lives with her mother. And my friends were like, oh. And then me and my mom started laughing and they're like, you motherfucker.
You bastards.
You sons of bitches.
Did you know your father?
Yeah. My dad and my mom broke up when I was 4, and he lived in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm like a really big 49er fan and Giants fan.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd spend my summers and winters out there with him and my grandma. My grandma still lives out in the Bay.
Gotcha. Is your dad still around?
No, he died when I was 14.
When he was 14?
Yeah. He was 14.
Yeah.
If he died when I was 14, I'm like,
wow.
Mom, why are you banging a 12-year-old? And then...
he had to leave.
I think my mother murdered him.
He wanted to skateboard.
Yeah. He had chores.
His parents wanted him to come back.
My grandma wanted him home. It was way past his curfew. Yeah, he died when I was 14.
Jeez, how did he die?
Drinking.
Really?
Yeah, he's a big drinker, and I think he got like hepatitis C. And then it switched to cirrhosis.
Ouch.
Yeah, so that's
a long way out.
Yeah, that's a rough.
That's not a good
rough
road out.
No.
Were you around it, or you were just pretty much in?
I was in Denver, but I would go. I saw him like a couple times before. We'd see each other maybe like once every 2 years.
Yeah.
My grandma would fly me out, and I'd see him.
Right.
And I'd be like, "Hey, what's up, dude?"
Was he a cool guy to be around?
He was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that really sucks. He's the funniest guy I've ever met.
Right.
Like I've met Chris Rock.
Right.
My dad was genuinely the funniest. And I know like a lot of people say their parents.
Yeah.
My dad was fucking funny.
Really?
Like even jokes I remember from when I was a kid, I was like, that's got structure.
Wow.
Like he had structured jokes.
Jeez.
He always like, he's like one of those guys that like always called pussy muff. And I always thought that was really funny.
Right.
Like, I was trying to get some muff. And you're like, that is so funny. I don't know if it was fun. I don't know. But,
right. Good wordsmith.
He really just treated me kind of like a bar buddy.
Right.
Like, it really was our relationship.
Yeah.
We'd get on the phone and talk about, he'd do like how's school?
Right.
School's good. And he'd be like, what's up with the 49ers? I'm like, I don't know, man. They let go of Ronnie Lott. And we just sit there. I was like a little man.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he passed away, it was, it sucks, but.
Yeah, of course.
My mom was great.
It is hard when my grandfather was really funny. And it's not really until you become a comic that you realize how really funny they were.
Yeah, because
they're funny, but then you start realizing, oh, he could have been a good source. I mean, this is he was a storyteller. This guy could hold a room.
My dad could talk he could get the attention of anyone and not annoy them and just make them laugh. And like, fuck, that's great.
It's a great skill.
Yeah.
Are you like that in real life?
Yeah, I think a lot of my Nate Bargatze always makes fun of me because he's like, every time I've left you, I come back and you have a friend. He's like, it's annoying. Like he really is annoyed by it.
Right.
Because I stopped drinking, but when I used to drink, he would go to the bathroom at a bar. Like we'd be at a bar having beers. He'd come back and be like, this is Rory. He's from Mississippi. Great dude. And Nate's like, oh my God, I don't want to meet this stranger. So yeah, I am very much like my father in that aspect.
That's good. That's a good skill. I'm always envious of that skill. I have a little bit of it, but not in the way that like guys like you have.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you could be if you wanted to. See, that's the thing I'm starting to notice is the more I've been a comedian, and the longer I think you deal with like audience members, I think you're just like, okay, I don't want to be friends with this person.
Right.
Like I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
You become almost a little jaded. Where you're like, ugh.
Well, you also see how people operate a lot more in a social setting. Like you see people drunk, you see people in bars, you see people coming out of clubs, and it just becomes. You quickly are like, oh, this is one of those guys. Oh, this is the guy that gets close and spits on me. This is the person that's going to turn mean really quick. This is the girl that touches you too much.
Give you advice for what you need to do.
Right.
Why they haven't heard of you.
What's the worst compliment you get when what's the one that bugs you the most when you're seeing people as they're piling out of your show?
Two things. One is you were actually funny.
That's brutal.
Like, oh, okay, go fuck yourself. Hey, man, you were actually funny. Oh, well, I guess then I won't quit because Daryl in fucking Bohemia told me I was funny.
Yeah, thank God.
And the other one is you should use this in your act. That is...
That one I've kind of embraced.
You have?
Yeah, because it's relentless. It never stops.
You're right. I can't fight it.
It never stops. And I have friends who have been doing comedy much longer than I have who do not embrace it. and every time they come up, they just rage against them. But it's like, I can't fight that fight my whole life.
You know, the best was... I was at my mom's house for Christmas this past year, and she's got a neighbor. She's sweet. But when she's drunk, she feels like she knows everything about comedy.
Right.
And it was December 20th, and I remember this specifically. We're sitting in my mom's living room. She's hammered, and I'm just sitting there talking to her. And it was December 21st.
Yeah.
We're sitting there talking, and she's like, I'm telling you, you need to do this in your act. And she's retelling me the same story that she's told me 5 times in the night. And all I could think was, if the world does end right now, I'll be fucking furious that this was the last conversation I had to have on this earth, was you should use this in your act. Yeah. And I told my mom, I was like, I don't ever want to have that. My mom's like, I know you hate that. Or say
the similar one is when you're in that setting and you have the people that are paranoid in your life are going, are you getting material right now?
Oh,
are you going to use this?
I better not hear my name in your jokes, in your skits. You better not do this in your skits. Say something funny that's a tough one.
Say something funny, yeah. Oh, you're a comedian? Say something funny.
What do you tell people when you meet them on airplanes?
I tell them I'm a comedian.
You do?
Yeah.
You're honest.
For the first 10 years, I did not say that.
Okay, I'm still at year 9, so I'm okay?
I'm just working, yeah. At 9, I'm just working, and, or I'm in sales, or I'm just going to do whatever.
You don't mind it?
And then I realized, you know what? If I say I'm a comedian, we're going to talk about me more than we're going to talk about you. And I'd rather talk about me than you.
You're a comedian.
Yeah. I've got cool stories. I've met some cool people.
I hang out with the people that you watch on TV.
Right. I don't want to talk about you and your job in whatever, doing whatever.
Houston.
Yeah. Let's talk about me.
I tell people I do commercial refrigeration. That is... Because really, I think people are almost like, what is that? And they don't want to ask.
And they don't want to know.
And then I'm right back to reading my Rolling Stone on the airplane.
That's pretty great.
And it's like, I know a couple things about refrigeration enough to talk about it when it's like, you got the ammonia tanks. That broke. I work at Giles. It's a big company.
I do find, though, that fewer people ask what you do.
You know why? I think we're headed towards a lot more of a me culture.
Interesting.
I think up till maybe 2005,
right.
I think people used to be like, hello,
right?
What do you do? Who are you as a person?
Right.
Where now we're like, how many Twitter followers do you have, man?
Right.
I've got 11,000 Twitter followers. And it's like, these people just don't appreciate me for who I am. No one gives a shit except you.
That's very insightful, actually. Yeah, people are just all about themselves.
That's all they're about.
And it really should just be us entertainers.
Yeah, it's really more about us.
Right. We deserve it.
We've done the work, so go fuck yourself.
You're listening to Come to Papa, and I'm here with my good friend, comedian Dan Soder, who just recorded and just released his first half-hour special on Comedy Central. You can get it on iTunes. It's Dan, S-O-D-E-R. Are you on Twitter?
I am, at Dan Soder.
At Dan Soder. He's very funny tweets.
Yeah, not really.
No.
I'm good at retweeting.
All right.
If you really want to know what I think's the funniest on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. You'll get a bunch of sweet retweets.
Where do you find that most of your audience comes from? Is like the people, because now if you're just starting to go out and tour and you're starting to publicize yourself and you're doing morning radio and you come into shows and you're starting to see what your audience is starting to be made up of.
Yeah.
Do you have a vibe of most of it's coming online, or is it people that are seeing you do your stuff? Or?
The biggest thing has been Robert Kelly's podcast, the You Know What Dude podcast. That's through the, basically through Bobby, I got it. He exposed me to a lot of people, and
Robert Kelly is a weekly podcast.
Yeah, You Know What Dude on iTunes.
You Know What Dude on iTunes.
And it's
it's doing really well.
Yeah, Bobby's he's the best. I love Bobby so
great.
much.
Me too.
He's the closest to an older brother I've ever had.
Really?
He'll yell at you.
Right.
A lot. Yeah. And then I'll call you and be like, Dad, it's just sometimes you got to act like this, Dad. And it's really endearing. And it's like, I was a fan of Bobby's before I started opening for him. And then I started doing the podcast with him. And it was like, so many loyal people listen to that, and like,
Yeah.
there's so many people that like I know on Twitter from when I had like 200 followers,
Right.
and they're like, "Yo, man, I love you on the podcast," and they're still around, and you're like,
Right.
Like one guy, Anthony Johnson, I just know him because I've known him because he's followed me on Twitter. I'm going to Sacramento, and I'm like, dude, I got you tickets.
Right.
Don't worry about it. You just come
That's
out to the
great.
show. I'm excited to meet. Like, I'm more excited to meet this guy.
That's funny. It's a back and forth relationship.
It really is.
Well, this is why people all think they're important.
Yeah, because comedians are like, thank you for following me.
Right.
Thank you for letting my existence let it be known.
I had a thing the other day where somebody tweeted, Tom Papa responds to me more than my friends do. And I was realizing maybe I'm a little needy.
Yeah.
I got to start like trying to see which guys and try and change it up a little bit more.
And what's funny is I always tend to respond to the negativity more so. Like when people are like, it's really funny to watch me read my tweets because if it's like, you're great, I saw you, I'm like, ugh. And then if someone's like, this dickhead sucks, I'm like, oh yeah? And I'm like, you want to play around? Like one girl was like, I find Dan Soder annoying on Guy Code. And immediately I quoted the tweet and I was like, you're probably way more annoying in real life.
Right.
And then she's like, I think it's funny when you just talk shit to people and then they respond quicker and nicer. And it's like, well, yeah, because I'm an aggravated person.
Are you on Twitter a lot? Do you find yourself checking it a lot?
I tend to, I really just read it when I'm taking a dump.
That's nice.
Or like if I'm waiting, because it's like, oh, I'll just read tweets.
Right.
And a lot of my friends, you know, like, I follow just really funny people.
Yeah.
And some people are amazing at Twitter.
Right.
And I'm not them.
Right.
I like to read. I'm a reader of Twitter.
Right. Colin's probably the best.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I told him when we were working together, I was like, you redefined humor on Twitter.
Yeah, he did.
Because he's doing something that now the bigger people who kind of were before Colin had really done that, they're starting to bite off his style.
Are they?
Yeah, where they're like doing like I'm being a real silly pants, and you're like, that's Colin Quinn. You're doing Colin Quinn on Twitter.
Right.
Now we're starting to have Twitter hacks.
That's of course.
How crazy is that?
Of course. Do you find that it's a bit of a creative suck for you though? Having to like think about being funny on there, does it get? Do you think that
I just refuse to be.
But do you think that it hurts comedians in that you're not spending? I've had this discussion with other people who think that why am I spending any mental time on this when I should be going into my act? Or do you think there's enough to go around?
There's a lot of my friends that actually have a great philosophy where they actually try premises out on Twitter. They'll throw something out, and if people are like that's funny, they're like that could be a bit. Actually,
Interesting.
one of my bits was like a tweet that I had a long time ago, and it was just like just a sentence from my tweet. I mean, a sentence from my bit. It was a tweet, and I was like, oh, actually, it could be kind of funny. And I did on stage. I was like, that is funny. And then I fleshed it out, and it became like a bit. And you're like, but I don't have the consistency to do that.
Yeah.
And it's also, you're right. You're putting a block on yourself because you're like 140 characters. That's all I got to get this out and to be funny in this. And it's like, that's not how I write.
Right.
Like I like to write and
Right.
just put a bunch of stuff out and then pick what I like.
Hey, did you clear up your problem on next Tuesday for the live Come to Papa?
Oh, I will be. I think I have I'm waiting to hear back from the seller, but I think I'm good to go.
All right, good.
Yeah.
That's good. People will have, when they hear this interview, they will have already heard you on the live Come to Papa.
This is going to be the prequel.
Wow.
We're releasing the prequel.
We're in such a time warp.
Yeah.
This is so creepy. I hope you did well.
I hope I did too.
I wonder if I put you in a sketch or not.
I don't know. Well, you know what?
There's a lot of people coming, though. There's a lot of human beings that are going to be in that room.
Let's just say I didn't.
Okay.
And we can play it like that for the rest of the show.
I think your set at the live... This is the problem I had with your set doing the live Come to Papa, is that I just don't know why you started getting so political, because you're not really that guy. I mean, you brush up against it, but to go into a whole rant of how you love guns was weird.
Well, here's the thing, Tom. Like, I didn't really want to do this, but I just left my house reading a HuffPo article.
Right.
And it's like, sometimes I'm like, hey, liberals, I get it. I get it. But sometimes we need guns. I love guns because I love America. And I like big skies.
I get that, but why did you bring it to my live Come to Papa show? Because then when that lady got up and the bouncers had to restrain her, and then she threw that glass, I mean, as we're friends, it was a disrespectful thing to do to me.
Well, first off, I didn't want to ruin the show.
Right.
But here's the problem is that woman clearly was eyeballing me. And if you know me, I'll fight anybody.
Yes, but to fight Amy Schumer like that was weird.
Well, she's gotten a little bit of an ego. And I think nothing will take her back down to earth like a knuckle sandwich. And yeah, I referred to punching a woman as a knuckle sandwich because that's where they should be, is making sandwiches. No, I love women. But I'd love to. This will be fun.
But that'll be good. Yeah. It's going to be a good lineup. Or it was a good lineup. I'm so confused by my own show.
Internet and computers.
Confused by my own show.
Yeah.
Who do you consider in your class? Who are the freshmen?
I would say probably, there's like Nate Bargatze, Joe List, myself, Mark Norman, Sam Morrill, Michael Che.
Right.
There's a lot.
So Metzger's a sophomore?
Metzger, Big J, Vecchione. They're all sophomores. Julian McCullough, they were all like the guys that were working
when you showed up.
And I feel like Nate is more of a sophomore than a freshman. I feel like he's a sophomore he's like the young sophomore.
Right.
Like he was born.
Right.
He's the youngest.
He missed the cutoff.
And he actually he played sports with us.
Right.
So he hangs out with us, but he's more of a sophomore than.
Is he LA?
He moved to LA. Yeah. He lived here for a long time. He's from Nashville.
Okay. I don't know him.
That's funny. I go on people's shows to plug my best friends. I'm like, you got to check him out.
That is good.
At Nate Bargatze. Literally, like, probably one of my favorite dudes to watch. And that's weird. Do you have that with your friends where you have friends and you don't want to tell them how much you like their act? So you're just mean to them?
No, I'm kind of nice to them. Why do you do that to them?
I don't know. Maybe I don't want them to know that I'm a fanboy.
No, there are those people who, I know what you're saying. You don't want to be too much like,
you don't want to make it weird.
Right.
But I feel like Nate and I are close enough that and like Joe List is like a guy like that. Like I'll sneak into the room and watch him, and then I'll leave and be outside smoking a cigarette, and they'll be like, "Oh man, that set was great." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, she didn't even."
I am jealous of your cigarette smoking.
That's ending soon.
It is.
It's ending in a month.
You've kind of been saying that for a while.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, I'm thinking of starting.
Yeah, which is the dumbest thing in the world.
I don't see how it's that dumb.
Well, considering...
First of all, I can never say, I watched my friend on stage and I was outside, I'm having a cigarette and talking blah, blah, blah. I can't say that. I have, my nerdy thing is, I watched my friend on stage and then went outside and got a cookie and I sat on the steps. It's not cool.
I had a nice baked good
right.
as I sat on. I think even when I quit smoking, just because it's been a part of my life, for, as my whole comedy career, I probably still will go outside.
Just to stand there?
Just to stand there and talk to the smokers because it's almost a weird escape.
It's a great escape.
Because you can almost leave any conversation.
I know.
You can be like, I'm going to go have a cigarette. I'll be right back.
I know. Like when you're at parties, like in a real person's house.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I got to go. And then there's one or two other people and you go out. You can't just walk. If you're not a smoker, you can't be like, I'm going outside now.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I'm going to try it. But there's also the flip side of that. There's nothing more depressing than being outside by yourself and just smoking and watching everyone laugh inside in the warmth. And you're just like,
There are times when it looks... I saw Mike Vecchione outside smoking a cigar. I love cigars.
Okay. So just... don't.
It looks so sad with the cigar. It's too long of a process. It's a 40-minute thing.
Yeah.
You can't. And he's like in the corner of the Comedy Cellar on that dirty, like fire escape stoop that people pee on and throw up on. And he's just sitting there with this elegant cigar, looking like just a grubby old man.
Yeah, he's my roommate.
Is he really?
Yeah. So you want to talk about some grubbiness? I've really seen him at his lowest.
You live with Mike Vecchione?
Mike Vecchione and I are roommates.
That's a great combination.
He is the best roommate I've ever had in my life.
There's no... Wow, you're the sunshine in that relationship.
Oh, yeah. I got to bring a lot of positivity to that.
I got to have him on the show, too.
Yeah.
He's good and weird.
He's got one of the most interesting stories in the world.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a guy that's like literally America. He's just America. Youngstown, Ohio, then moved to Florida, then back to Ohio, then wrestled his whole life.
Right.
He's like an unbelievable joke writer, but he's just like...
Yeah, he's good.
He's a slice of Americana.
Wow, so he lives with you. But he doesn't smoke cigarettes.
He does sometimes, which is crazy. That
Are you guys allowed to smoke in the apartment?
When he's not in town, I do.
And can he smoke cigars in the apartment?
No.
Why not?
Because
You let him. You smoke cigarettes.
not when he's home. He doesn't know.
But what
I
about
do
when
it.
you're away? Can he
Oh, I don't
smoke
give
a cigar?
I don't give a shit. If I'm not there. I smoke pot in the house.
This is why people really love gay marriage.
Oh, yeah.
How great would that be to be just live with a dude and you can just smoke? If I light up anything, I've got 3 women just going, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Stop it!" My little one's holding her breath until it's over. My wife's just, "Are you a moron?"
Just mad at you.
Yeah. If I don't smell like flowers, it's a horror. I'm not welcome.
The one thing about Tom Papa, always smells like flowers.
He does smell like flowers.
But yeah, we have like
That's-
if he wants to smoke a cigar in the house, I don't care if he does.
Just not while you're around.
Even if I am around, who gives? If he
Right.
lights up a cigar, I'm gonna light up a cigarette if he lights up a cigar.
Sure.
But I like to, sometimes it's late and it brought food home from the cellar and I'm watching Netflix and I'm on the couch and he's not in town and I'm like, fucking, I'm gonna have a cigarette while I'm watching this documentary.
That's pretty cool.
Especially if they're smoking in the show. Like if I'm watching Boardwalk Empire, I'm like, I really want a cigarette right now.
See, you're not talking me out of starting my habit. This all sounds great.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I still, besides the negative physical and health reasons,
The dying part?
the dying
Yeah.
and my throat hurting a lot.
Does
and-
it?
Yeah, that's like the thing that's really creeping me out.
Yeah.
And I've been like going to a throat doctor and she's just like, stop smoking. And I'm like, yeah, but until then. And she's like, stop smoking. And I'm like, but what should I do?
That is the only good part of not smoking is that when you go to the doctor, that's the first thing they ask. And
it's the
just
worst.
when you can just go, no.
And they go, oh.
And they're like,
well,
then we can knock this whole side of the page off because you're not going to die of any of these.
You know, it's funny. It's like walking in and someone being like, are you a criminal? And you're like, yes. And they're like, okay, we're going to have to go through a laundry list of what kind of crimes you did.
Right.
And instead, you're just like, no, never committed a crime. They're like, oh, hey, what's up, buddy? Get on the scale. I walk in, they're like, you shouldn't. You know what's really funny, though, is I really have a fear of these electronic cigarettes. I won't do it.
Don't do it.
Do you see they're on cabs now? They're
Yeah.
promoting smoking again.
I know.
Because listen, if you think you're just going to start with electric cigarettes
Yeah.
and stay there,
Right.
and also most electric cigarettes made in China.
Yeah.
I don't trust that.
No.
And it's vapor, and people are assholes with it. They just do it inside, and they're just blowing, and you're still blowing shit out of your mouth.
And you look like a moron.
You look like an
You
asshole.
look like a poser.
Yeah.
It's like I'm pretend smoking now.
Yeah, you just carry around a skateboard, but you don't know how to ride
I
it.
don't. Who's the actor that does the one on the beach?
Steven Dorff. He's like, still got my same thing.
I'm like gritty and unshaven. And it's time we take our rights back, or whatever the slogan is.
Take the day back. No. How about quit smoking? Why don't you go in the ocean with your electric cigarette? See how that works out.
Just smoke or don't smoke. Don't pretend half
What is
smoke.
this? It's like this. Everyone,
I'm not going to do that. I'm totally
Good.
going with the real cigarette.
good. And everyone's like telling me, they're like, just do electric cigarettes. I'm like,
Don't.
fuck yourself. The FDA said no to them.
Can you do it?
What?
Just quit?
I can do it.
Yeah.
I did it last year for 5 months.
Why?
I just wanted
Felt
to,
it was time.
yeah, and I did it, and I was successful, and then I was drinking a bunch.
And did you go stand outside a lot?
Uh-huh. I had it. I had a method down. My problem was I was drinking way too much.
Oh.
And I got drunk. And you know, at festivals, when you're drunk and you're around,
Yeah,
and, like,
cigarettes.
people were having a cigarette out back, and I was like, you know what? It's been 5 months.
Yeah.
Let me have a. And I had a cigarette, and I was like, oh God, I missed you. And the next thing I know, I'm at a gas station buying a pack of Camel Lights. Like, fuck, I'm back.
You know what other one is appealing to me is the one with coffee.
Cigarettes and coffee.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not gonna lie.
It's really good.
You want to know how many times I've thought about the cigarette I'm gonna have with this cup of coffee when I leave here? Good 10 times.
That's so great.
There's something about smoking with coffee that's just
Yeah.
just goes.
I know. It really
will-
it really matches up really well.
I used to love when I was drinking. Because I used to drink pretty hard,
Uh-huh.
and I drank like an old man.
What did you drink? Like rusty nails?
I did a shot of Jameson with a Budweiser heavy back, so like a Bud in a bottle.
What's that mean, Budweiser heavy?
Well, that's how you order it if you're a true alcoholic. Because if you
what's the
say
heavy?
if you say Budweiser, if you're like, let me get a Bud, they'll give you a Bud Light.
Oh.
So if you go, give me a Bud Heavy, they know it's like a Budweiser original
Oh.
with that label
Right.
and that smell of the whiskey.
The long neck.
I don't miss drinking.
You quit that too.
Yeah, I'm 53 days without a drink.
Really?
And I feel unbelievable.
On your own?
Love it. A couple books.
No program?
Might start going to a program if I feel like, if I start getting the itch.
It was becoming a problem?
It was a problem.
It was a problem.
It was a problem.
And you have your dad's history, which is hanging over your head.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't want to fucking do this.
I don't want to do that.
So I quit. But there was something romantic about the danger, or just the pure carelessness of doing a shot of whiskey, moving the bottle around, drinking a little bit of your beer, and then going outside and ripping a cigarette. And I felt like a fucking cop. Like a cop, but a one that's like slamming heads into the sides of the building. I felt like a tough badass, and I really am just a giant pussy. So it was like, look at me, and it's like instead of carrying a gun, I carry jokes.
Would you go on stage lit?
It happened a couple times. It started happening more and more, and that's why I stopped.
Okay.
There was one night at the cellar where I never drank at.
Right.
It was like my rule.
Right.
And then I started drinking at the cellar.
Uh-huh.
And it never got to the point where I didn't have a good set.
Right.
But I got to the point where my words started feeling like they were, like I couldn't, like they're coming out of my mouth and I wanted to grab them. Like it wasn't as tight.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the structure that I like having.
A little sloppy.
A little sloppy.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, oh, this is gonna So then I went on a bender the week after I taped my special.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I was in Denver, and I was like, I'm just gonna detox at my mom's house.
Really?
And it was awesome. And
so when you get drunk, it's not like me getting drunk. When you get drunk, there's a component clicking in your makeup that's like, no, we're going full throttle.
Yeah, like the people that would be like, just have a beer. I'm like, you don't know what it's like.
Right.
Because the second I have a beer, I'm like, I'll have another beer, and I'll have a shot. Then I'll have 2 more beers.
Well, this is pretty great, though, that it usually takes people to kind of be that self-aware a long time to get there.
Yeah.
And if you're aware of that pretty early in your career, and you are, how old are you?
29.
Yeah. This is like when this is good.
Yeah.
All my friends that kind of came to that awareness, it got really dark before.
The thing is I could probably tell you that I was an alcoholic since the time I was 10.
What?
Like I just knew I never would just do one of anything.
Right.
Like look, I got 2 cups of coffee here.
Right. That is weird.
I would have a Pepsi, and I would want another Pepsi.
Right.
And then I'd have that Pepsi, and I'd want another one.
Right.
So eventually, it just made sense that trend, that moved to drinking.
Yeah, of course. Whatever you do.
Yeah, whatever I do.
Yeah.
It's like I want to just keep doing it until I can't do it anymore.
Right. Colin always talks about that because he's sober, and he when he gets Diet Cokes, it's like 20 Diet Cokes.
He mows them down.
Then when he started smoking cigars when he was doing Tough Crowd, he was smoking like one after. He was chain smoking cigars.
That's crazy.
But that's just his makeup.
Yeah, and that's like kind of how I am.
Yeah.
And that was everyone's like, why did you quit? And it wasn't like my career was on the rocks, and it wasn't like my personal life was on the rocks. It was like I was scared how little control I had over alcohol.
Right.
Like 1 beer by the end of the night, I was like 12, 14 drinks.
Right.
Like drunk.
12, 14 drinks.
My average, I was putting down 10 to 12 a night.
Wow. And you're a big dude, but still.
But still, it was like 6 shots, 6 beers.
Wow.
Feeling no pain.
But how are your mornings?
Awful.
That's the one thing that really kills.
I was so depressed.
Right.
I hit emotional rock bottom.
That's good.
Because I was waking up like, I'm my dad. Like every morning, like, I just need to take an alcoholic nap.
Right.
Like I'd sleep for 9 hours and then be up for an hour and be like, I need a nap. And then I go take a nap, and I still just felt like shit. And it didn't stop until I had that first drink that night.
Wow, interesting. It's really interesting because it's not just your haircut. But lately, but you've been looking really healthy lately.
Thank you.
No, honestly, like I've been noticing that at the cellar that you look like. And at first I was like, oh, he got a haircut, but it's more than the haircut. Like your face is different.
Oh, you kicked one of your demons.
Right.
That's what happens when you don't listen to that devil on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't screw it up because
I honestly, at this point,
Greg Giraldo died from it. And
Colin and I talked about that.
That still sucks.
He was like one of my favorites.
He's the best.
Like A Good Day to Cross the River is like one of my favorite albums.
No, he's the best. And he was one of my best friends, and he was really it was awful because he went to the despair to the depths where no one could touch him and help him out.
Yeah.
And so don't do that. We let a mediocre comic do that. I'm tired of good comics doing it.
Let a feature that you worked with 3 years ago do that.
Yeah. Let's encourage those guys.
Yeah. Greg, and I think especially being like a young comic and watching your heroes that almost, like Patrice and Greg, you're just like, oh man.
Yeah, and Hedberg.
Even Mike, Mike D.
DiStefano,
when it's like, would it have changed if he quit smoking? And you don't really know. And you don't really know with Patrice, like, I know he knew about his weight problem, his diabetes, and it's like...
But it's the same kind of struggle.
But it's almost like I don't know, I think like you, as a young comic, you look at that and you're like, oh, fuck, is that what's going to happen to me? If I don't? And with Geraldo,
they're all young guys.
There were way too many, I know how he feels. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah, all the similarities.
Like, where he'd just get hammered and you're like, and he was so fucking funny, God.
Oh, he was the best.
Yeah.
But this is why I think that my starting smoking is going to work out, because...
You're going to do it. What you're going to do is you're going to do like a Denzel in Flight. You're going to turn it to land it.
And also, I think it's okay to start these addictions maybe like in another 10 years, then I'll really start blazing. Because then, how much time is left on the clock?
I'm not going to lie, Tom. I completely agree with you.
Right?
And nothing makes me want to grow old more the fact that I can go back to these demons.
Yes. You'll have plenty of time. When your career's done and you're sitting in your place, you've moved back to Colorado, there's all your movie posters are up on the walls, and you're just in there drunk and smoking. Who cares?
And you know what? It's just like at that point, real cigarettes are going to be illegal. Right. And you're going to have to find them.
And that Jenna girl from the club is back.
But my ex-wife's my son's, he's got a family. And
You've adopted the kid that you pretend is your kid.
Yeah, that girl, she's a grown woman, and we still play like I'm her fake dad. But I'm just going to start smoking. I mean, when I hit 65, 70 probably.
Yeah, it used to be 70. Yeah, it's because we're going to live longer now.
My 70th birthday.
It's going to be a great one.
Good God.
Man, I hope I'm there.
Oh, so do I.
I'm going to have so many cigarettes.
Oh, we're going to be smoking and drinking whiskey, and oh, God, I might even do a little heroin. It's just going to be, God. But, I got 40 years till then. So
yeah, you got a lot of work to do.
I got to start, I got a NutriBullet. I'm going to start doing sit-ups.
Well, this is going to be great. You're just getting started. The Comedy Central special, this is Dan Soder. Look him up on iTunes. Follow him on Twitter at SODER, like Soder Pop.
Yeah, at Dan Soder.
At Dan Soder. When you're in New York, or if you're out, you have a website. How do people find out your dates?
DanSoder.com.
DanSoder.com.
I try to update my
Go
schedule.
see him live. He's really great. It takes a lot to get into the Comedy Cellar, and there's a handful of people that do it, and we all love him, and you're going to love him too. And thanks for doing it.
Dude,
it's kind of weird that you're going to drink 2 coffees.
I already drank a coffee. That's why this is my second coffee.
Don't you have to pee now?